So I did a little talk about point of view and identifying the kinds of points of view that you can choose from when you begin your story or poem. Actually, any kind of writing, essay, a memoir can be written in second person, as I mentioned. But there can be certain problems with point of view. Above and beyond jumping between points of view, head jumping, shifting around without a conscious thought. So those exist, but there are other certain things to think about, and this handout here really sort of identifies some of those problems. So let's start with, let's see if I can find here we go. Problem one. A lot of people write from a child's point of view, except really it's not a child's point of view. It's sort of the adult behind the child. Or it is the child's point of view, and most people don't really want to read about a 5-year-old for a sustained period of time, such as a novel. So if your problem is that your child doesn't sound like a child, what you can do is to keep the dialogue real. So the child can be thinking a little bit more elevated than the child might. The child sort of is like a 15-year-old, a 20-year-old, a 25-year-old. But the dialogue is real. That's a way of keeping yourself in the childhood experience. So my example for this is My Oedipus Complex by Frank O'Connor. Larry is thinking way above the way Larry would think as a 5-year-old. So just here's a little bit. One morning I got into the big bed, and there, sure enough, was Father in his usual Santa Claus manner. But later, instead of a uniform, he put on his best blue suit, and Mother was as pleased as anything. This doesn't sound like a 5-year-old to me. However, later he asks questions that really show you that he's 5. So, and we often know that there's a looking back when you're writing from childhood. So think of To Kill a Mockingbird. It is very childlike in perspective, but it's also not. It's really presenting a town, a racial incident. It's doing so much more than being childlike. So dialogue is the key. The children are naive, and children are often without guile or irony. Children rarely think in metaphor, but they don't speak in metaphor. Or they actually think magically too sometimes and speak magically. They think things that can't be real. So that's a way into your to fixing your point of view problem. Okay, problem 2. And this is really very important. You are writing about a particular time, and your narrator sounds out of place. Your Victorian woman sounds like a valley girl. Your surfer dude sounds like an Oxford graduate. Your knight in shining armor sounds like Charles Dickens. This is tough. This is a tough one. So here are some solutions. Research. What did people think about? What are the objects in the locale? How do people speak in that area? Now, I can't write about 20th century Dublin, but I can write about the Bay Area, and I know what people sound like here, and I'm not going to make them sound like they're from Dublin. I don't have this. I'm going to have a very specific California vernacular, California diction. And California isn't one place, and I live in Oakland. So, what do some of the things? Now I know Hella and Hecka are very important linguistic terms in terms of California, but they don't appear everywhere. So you want to make sure that you are in the place and of the place. Also, you don't want to do the opposite. If you're writing about Roman times, you do not want to laden your character's dialogue and experience with everything from the Roman times. I had a student once who loved Roman money. He actually collected Roman coins. And sometimes in his scenes we'd be counting a lot of coins because he wanted to Well, he was proud of his Roman coins. And I think you just have to not laden your scenes down and really just sort of allow some things to naturally pop up that will give us the feel of the time and the place that we're in, and your characters can talk about them. Okay? So you can use problem one solution to solve problem two as well, so that you're using the things around you to make the point of view seem real. Okay, this one's actually kind of more of a state of ennui problem. You get bored with your point of view. Oh, I get bored. Sometimes I get bored of my point of view. I really get bored with first person point of view. Sometimes I get sick of being in any one character, even in the third person. So with third person, it's really easy. I mix it up. I go into another point of view, another character, third person. I tell the story from somebody else. Somebody else in the family wants to have a say. Boom, that person is. In first person, so my latest writing project, I have the longest part is in the third person point of view from one character, but interspersed I have different characters with the first person point of view. So I am absolutely not sick of any point of view right now. It's yay! It was a great solution to the problem of being trapped inside somebody's experience. Being in a character can be incredibly claustrophobic. And if you get to switch around a little bit, you will find that you won't be bored. You won't be sick of your characters. And you might have a secondary character who wants to say things. And this character can never come back, but maybe that character can stay. The other thing is, maybe that character and her point of view won't be in the book, but you've given yourself an opportunity to vent and get rid of this problem for a little bit. Okay. Problem 4. If you write about the past, which I do often, you may have a character who you find repugnant, not really because the character is a bad person, but the character is living fully in his or her time. Meaning the character could be a racist, a genocidal maniac, because genocidal maniacs sometimes are really approved of. You could have a character who's a raging sexist because the culture is of a raging sexist time. So I think you have to go with the time that you're writing in, and your characters can reflect the feelings. So I have a character right now who's in the middle of World War II. She's 60 years old. She's been born and raised in the United States in the Midwest, and she calls the Japanese a certain term that because the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor and they wanted to kill us according to the thought of the time, and she doesn't like them much. And the culture doesn't like them much. We've just rounded up all the Japanese people and put them into camps. So she has feelings about this. I can't not let her be who she is because I find that repugnant. If your characters are moving west across the United States in the 17 and 1800s, they have feelings as they travel from Boston to California. About the Native Americans, the indigenous peoples of this country. It's not our feeling, but it's their feeling. So you have to really grapple them with psychology. You have to have them acknowledge the surface level events that are occurring, but you have to make them feel the things that they need to feel as a character. So a couple of examples I have. One is from Tim O'Brien's short story, The Things They Carried. You see the characters in violent times, but you know their internal thoughts. And another example I would recommend is Stones from the River by Ursula Heggie. This is set in Germany during the Nazi occupation. What were the people in the villages thinking and feeling during this horrible, terrible time? I think the secret is, again, sinking into the internal experiences where everybody is a human. Despite the ravages of the world around them, they still feel loss and pain and sorrow, which is a way into the point of view of the character in a way into the reader's sensibility as well. And the last example, which is crazy, is A Zombie by Joyce Carol Oates. By the end of that novel, I was really hoping he could find someone to lobotomize and make his best friend, because she made me care about him. Yeah, kind of sick, kind of crazy, but I knew his psychology, I knew his internal feelings, and I was willing to live with him in his kind of messed up world. So I think I've gone over this in another lecture, but here are some final point of view thoughts. Very few people can carry off an omniscient narrator. Some do. For a first novel, I wouldn't. It's just advice, and it can be wrong, but it's hard, and it's just a recommendation. If you keep switching your points of view, you might be writing in the wrong voice. Okay, if you keep slipping into the third person, I think that's a sign. If you switch, and I've mentioned this one, if you switch point of views midstream, you're like, I'm slipping out of the first person, I'm going into the third, I've got to write this thing in the third, it is going to take you a long time to find all the places that you need to change, all those pronouns. Head jumping can work for some, but again, I don't recommend it for the first-time novelist. Nora Roberts does it all the time, and Nora Roberts is richer than God, but she's Nora Roberts. Don DeLillo does an amazing switching of point of view at the end of Falling Man, which I recommend. I don't do it. I don't think people would like me much if I did. So again, just caveats, nothing you actually have to follow. So those are some problems with points of view. Problems with point of view. And if you want more, just go back to this handout and you can read more examples. But I hope this will help you stay in the point of view that you pick.